You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a vulnerability dashboard, it's just a sea of red, and you feel completely overwhelmed? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to talk about turning that dashboard chaos into actual clarity. We're going to build a remediation service level agreement, an SLA that you can actually defend to auditors, to your boss, and most importantly, to your own teams. This is all about moving beyond just closing tickets and getting to a place where you can prove you're reducing risk.
This is the question, isn't it? It's what everyone is thinking when they see that wall of vulnerabilities. It's where all the arguments start. Security says one thing, ops says another, and compliance has a totally different idea of what urgent even means. Our goal today is to create a system that answers this question with real confidence.
So how are we going to get there? We'll do it in 6 steps. First, we'll talk about why SLAs are about way more than just picking a number of days. Then we'll build a much smarter matrix to prioritize what really matters. We'll define the rules of the game for the clock, learn how to avoid some really common pitfalls, and focus on the metrics that prove we're actually getting safer. And then we'll wrap it all up with one concrete action you can take to get started, like today. All right, let's dive into section 1. Why is this so hard? I mean, on a surface, it seems simple enough. Just tell people they have 30 days to fix high-severity issues. But as anyone who's actually tried this knows, that simple rule completely falls apart when it meets reality. And getting this wrong doesn't just create noise, it has a real security consequences. This right here, this is the fundamental tension at the heart of every single SLA. You've got your auditors asking one question, did you follow your own rules? But an attacker is asking a completely different and frankly, a much more important question. Can I use this to break in right now? A good SLA has to answer both. If you only focus on the auditor's question, you can end up with these beautiful compliance charts while leaving active attack paths wide open for business.
And that's exactly why, before you even start arguing about whether a fix should take 7, 15, or 30 days, you have to decide what kind of clock you're even using. Are we talking calendar days? That's great for customer contracts, nice and clear. Business days? That makes a lot of sense for aligning with internal IT teams. But risk days, where the clock literally ticks faster for your most critical internet-facing assets, that is how you align your response with actual real-world risk.
Okay, so now that we're thinking in terms of risk, it's time to build a smarter matrix. This is where we graduate from a simple, one-dimensional list of severities and deadlines to something that actually reflects the messy, complex reality of your environment. Look, most organizations start right here, and that's a totally reasonable first step. You just map severity to a deadline, it's clean, it's simple, and it gives everyone a baseline to work from. But as we're about to see, it's also fundamentally incomplete. Because let's be honest, not all high-severity vulnerabilities are created equal. And this is where we level up. We add 2 absolutely critical dimensions to our matrix, exploitability and exposure. All of a sudden, the picture gets so much clearer. Is there a known way to exploit this thing? Is it being actively used in the wild? And is the asset it's on just sitting out there on the internet? A high-severity vuln with a public proof of concept, which is basically a recipe for how to hack it, on an internet-facing server is a raging dumpster fire. That is a completely different problem than a theoretical high on some segmented internal box. This is how you start thinking like an attacker. Okay, so we have our smarter matrix. Awesome. But that matrix is completely useless without clear rules. This next part is all about governance, defining precisely when that SLA clock starts ticking, when, if ever, it can be paused, and what it really means to be done. Here's a big one. The most defensible, most honest start trigger for your SLA clock is ticket created time. So why not when the scanner first finds it? Well, because detection feeds can be super noisy, but more importantly, people will game the system. Delaying ticket creation is a classic way to make your metrics look better than they are. By starting the clock when that ticket is formally created and assigned, you get accountability and transparency right from the very beginning. And this workflow shows you what that looks like in practice. We detect something, but then we immediately apply our smart triage rules, that matrix we just built. Only then do we assign it with a clear owner and a due date. After the team says they fixed it, we hit the most critical step of all. We verify that the fix is actually effective before we dare close the ticket. And even after that, we monitor to make sure that sneaky vulnerability doesn't come right back. So, what does fixed actually mean? Let me be crystal clear about this. Closing a ticket is not remediation. They are not the same thing. True closure demands evidence. That means a new scan showing the vulnerability is gone, or a screenshot of a verified configuration change, or approved documentation for a compensating control, a workaround when a direct patch isn't possible. Without that evidence, you're not reducing risk. You're just hoping for the best.
All right, now that we have the ideal process in mind, let's talk about what I like to call deadline theater. These are all the common mistakes and bad habits that can quietly, completely undermine even the best designed SLA. I absolutely love this quote because it's so blunt and so true. If you're hitting 95% compliance on your SLA, but your vulnerabilities just keep popping back up a month later, you haven't succeeded at anything. All you've done is create a bunch of extra work and a totally false sense of security.
And this is exactly what that delayed failure looks like on a dashboard. Look at that 92% SLA compliance. That looks fantastic in a report to an executive, right? But the fine print tells the real story. An 18% reopen rate. That means almost 1 out of every 5 vulnerabilities they thought was fixed wasn't. Your reopen rate is the ultimate lie detector for your entire closure process. So if a simple compliance percentage can be a lie, what's the truth? Let's talk about the metrics that actually prove you're reducing risk in the real world. It is time to look beyond just a simple mean time to remediate. Yeah, keep tracking your SLA compliance, but slice it and dice it. How are you doing on your most critical internet-facing assets? Then look at the age distribution of your open vulnerabilities. How many have been sitting there, open, for more than 90 days? That tells a story that a simple average completely hides. And finally, always pair your backlog burn down rate with that all-important reopen rate. Are you actually fixing things for good, or are you just running in place? The reopen rate is your integrity check. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. Now let's turn all of this theory into practice with a single, concrete action that you can take to get started. Forget about writing a 40-page policy document that no one is ever going to read. Just start with a simple 1-page charter. It only needs 4 things: your prioritization matrix, your rules for the clock, your triggers for when you have to override the standard deadlines, like for a 0-day, and your template for how you handle exceptions. That's it. Keep it simple. And please, whatever you do, don't try to boil the ocean by rolling this out to the entire company all at once. Find one willing team, one business unit that's on your side, and just pilot your 1-page charter for 30 days. Measure what happens, learn from it, and then make it better. Always remember this: an imperfect policy that's actually implemented is infinitely more valuable than a perfect one that's stuck in draft mode quarter after quarter. So, I'll leave you with this final question. I want you to take an honest look at your current vulnerability management process and really ask yourself, is our SLA a tool that actively reduces our risk, or is it just some data that decorates a dashboard to make things look good? The answer to that question tells you everything you need to know about whether your program is built for compliance or if it's built for security.